To our other top story here today, and that is the verdict in the subway chokehold trial.
Daniel Penny acquitted in the death of Jordan Neely. We have team coverage. Tim McNicholas has reaction from Neely's family, including supporters and attorneys. But we begin with Alice Gaynor, who's been inside the courtroom since day one of jury selection. Alice.
A loud reaction in the courtroom after the verdict was read. Court officers actually struggled to maintain control. Daniel Penny appeared to smile, the first visible reaction we've seen from him this entire trial. His attorneys hugged one another. Family and supporters of Jordan Neely were angry and shouting. As soon as the words "not guilty" were out of the jury foreperson's mouth, some loudly cheered and applauded. Others, like Jordan Neely's father, were angry. He was kicked out of the courtroom for yelling. On Friday, the judge dismissed the top charge against 26-year-old Daniel Penny of second-degree manslaughter after the jury sent 2 notes saying they were deadlocked. Monday morning, they began deliberations on the lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide. After about an hour or less, they had reached their verdict.
You have a lot of thought that happens over a weekend break. And there may have been 1 juror, 2 jurors, we don't know, who really thought he should have been convicted. And upon reflection and persuasion by their fellow jurors, thought about the burden of proof.
On May 1st, 2023, 30-year-old Jordan Neely entered an F train and, according to witnesses, was acting erratically, screaming threats at passengers. Some said he threatened to kill. Penny moved to restrain him.
He said, "I'm willing to die. I'm willing to die."
The anonymous jury of 7 women and 5 men took notes, listening and watching closely as prosecutors called more than 30 witnesses to the stand, including passengers, responding police officers, Penny's Marine Corps martial arts instructor, and the medical examiner who performed Jordan Neely's autopsy and ruled his death compression of the neck, chokehold. The defense called under 10 people to the stand, including character witnesses like Penny's mother, sister, and his former Marine platoon sergeants, as well as a forensic pathologist who contradicted the medical examiner's ruling on Neely's cause of death, telling them he believed the cause of death was the combined effect of sickle cell crisis, the schizophrenia, the struggle and restraint, and the synthetic marijuana. Prosecutors argued Penny had good intentions, but used way too much force for way too long. Nearly 6 minutes, they said. The defense said it was just a hold. In a voluntary station house interview, Penny demonstrated for detectives.
And I kind of came like this.
Okay. Did you apply pressure, Daniel?
No, I wasn't. I just wanted to keep him from getting to people.
Daniel Penny did not take the stand in his own defense. If he had been convicted, he was facing up to 4 years behind bars on this lesser charge. Dick, Christine?
Alice, this case certainly has generated a lot of public interest. Curious if there were a lot of members of the public in the gallery today.
Christine, there were about 4 rows for members of the public today in the courtroom, and other people were lined up in the hallway. As we've been reporting, there's been such great public interest in this case, so every day that's pretty much been the norm. And when there was that loud reaction in the courtroom today, a lot of it was coming from members of the public, which was a little bit surprising because they were just there to observe. Normally, the judge gives an instruction, a reminder to people sitting in the gallery that when the verdict is read, don't have a reaction, keep it to yourself no matter how you're feeling. The judge didn't say anything today, and so there was that loud reaction when the jury foreperson said not guilty. And again, a lot of that reaction coming from members of the public who were gathered in the courtroom today.
Alice Gaynor, thank you. And of course, you'll have much more coming up at 6. In the meantime, Jordan Neely's father was inside the court during the trial. As Alice indicated, he and his family's attorneys say they're devastated and hurt by today's verdict.
And as Alice just mentioned, it did prompt not just an emotional reaction inside the courtroom, but also outside from Neely's father and supporters who had gathered. And that is where we find Tim McNicholas now. Tim, what happened outside?
Christine and Dick, 2 groups of protesters gathered outside the courthouse today. One that supports Daniel Penny, one that opposes him. Demonstrations intensified after the jury's decision.
If we don't get no justice, then they don't get no peace.
Minutes after the verdict, protesters showed their frustration, and Jordan Neely's father, Andre Zachary, described his anguish.
My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts. Really, really hurts.
Zachary was joined by the family's attorney and by civil rights activists, including Eric Garner's mother, Gwen Carr.
I tell this family, do not give up. because that's what they want you to do. They want to discourage you, just like they tried to discourage me. But 10 years later, I'm still fighting.
What's going to happen to us now? I had enough of this. The system is rigged. Come on, people. Let's do something about this.
Penny and his attorneys, Thomas Kenneth and Stephen Razor, posed for a photo after the decision, which Kenneth shared on social media. His legal team said they couldn't be more pleased that a jury acquitted him of any wrongdoing. The verdict also drew praise from Vice President-elect J.D. Vance and New York Congressman Mike Lawler, who both criticized Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg for prosecuting Penny. Bragg, on the other hand, released a statement thanking his team and the jury and saying, "We respect their verdict."
It was foolish of us to think that a black man would get justice in the system designed to keep him oppressed.
Bragg went on to say that everyone should condemn the threats that he says prosecutors have received throughout this trial. He also praised the NYPD for their work on this case. The NYPD, by the way, says they did have to arrest some of those protesters. We have not gotten an exact number on that just yet. We've also reached out to Penny's attorneys to try to set up an interview with them. They have not been available for that so far today. Christina and Dick.
All right, Tim, thank you. We do have extensive coverage on this trial on our website. Alice Gaynor, as we mentioned, has been inside that courtroom every day, and you can see all of her reports at cbsnewyork.com.